Viathon is a completely new bike brand that launched in spring of this year with 3 models: the R1 road bike, the M1 cross-country mountain bike, and this, the G.1 gravel bike. They've asked us to take a look at it, and so in this video, I'm going to be talking you through the finer points. Firstly though, one thing to address, and that is that Viathon caused quite a stir when they launched. One of the reasons being they're owned by retail giant Walmart. A brand, it's fair to say, in cycling circles at least, is famous for selling really cheap bikes. Hence why you may have been reading a rash of articles along the lines of, check out the most expensive bike you can buy at Walmart. But what's the deal here? Because firstly, you can't buy this in Walmart. It is direct to consumer only. So you order it online and you do so through viathonbicycles.com and not Walmart. Well, the deal is, it shouldn't really come as that much of a surprise, seeing as Walmart already sells high-end bike parts, though mainly through its Moose Jaw website. And so it seems like a bit of a logical step to create their own high-end bike brand. And it must be a pretty cool gig to get asked to create a bike company from scratch, but that's exactly what brand manager Zach Spinhin Martin was tasked with doing. Now, he actually was a pretty top-notch bike racer himself, spent a few years cutting his teeth in the cut and thrust scene in Belgium. He was actually a pro team mechanic as well, so it's fair to say he knows his way around a push bike. Now, his first step was to select the team that he wanted to actually design these Viathon bikes. And he went with Kevin Kwan Studios, who are based up in Toronto in Canada. Now, Kwan himself was a former senior engineer at Cervelo, and he's got some pretty impressive bikes in his design palmares. So let's see what he's come up with for this one. This is, as I mentioned at the beginning, the G.1 gravel bike. When it was first launched, there were 3 options available: a SRAM Force 1x edition, a Shimano Ultegra Group Set edition, and also a Shimano 105, as well as a frame set only version. This though, as you can see, has the new SRAM Red ETAP Access Group Set on there, plus a new colorway, which is this kind of matte black to metallic copper version. Now, we will get on to the details of the frame. Firstly, a size 56 weighs just 1,010 grams, which is pretty impressive for a gravel bike. The next question when talking about this type of bike is always, how wide a tyre can you fit? And in this case, you can go wide, 51 millimeters on a standard 700C road wheel, and it will also run smaller diameter 650B wheels with 2.1 inch wide mountain bike tyres. And yes, I do appreciate I've just swapped from metric to imperial there, but I think that's actually compulsory when talking about the already complex subject of wheel sizes. Anyway, to fit in such wide tyres, there's some deft engineering going on, particularly at the back end, which if you look closely, you'll notice is actually asymmetrical because the drive side chainstay is actually dropped a little bit. And that is to allow you to get those wider tyres in, but also on the outside of the chainstay to fit chain rings on, despite using normal width road cranks on there. And you can also, as well as running 1x like this, run it 2x as well for increased versatility. Whilst we're down there, another neat touch you'll see is the inclusion of a threaded bottom bracket. So on a bike that's destined for dirt roads, the added robustness and ease of servicing, it's a welcome touch. And some brands shy away from it because having a threaded bottom bracket shell will add a tiny bit of weight onto the bare frame, and so it maybe doesn't look quite as good in marketing, and also it adds an extra step in the manufacturing process. Other really neat practical touches are you've got fender mounts, mudguards, and also rack mounts on here, as well as 3 sets of bottle bosses. So it's fair to say you could load this one up with some pretty heavy duty bike packing. As well as the ability to fit those monster tyres, which will add quite a degree of comfort on rough trails. The frame itself, you'll notice, has a few little design touches that should improve the compliance and comfort. So the fact that those seat stays are slightly dropped from the seat tube cluster there will add in a bit of compliance. Plus, see, the cross section of the tubes is flattened to allow them to flex a little bit more. Moving back to our story about how this bike came to be, the next step on from the design process is choosing a manufacturing partner. And I think it's fair to say that being associated with Walmart opens doors at high-end factories in Asia. And although brands like to keep things pretty secretive, I'm told that this Viathon is made alongside some pretty well-known household names. As well as the actual manufacturing itself, there's also a two-step quality control process. So the first one is in-house, actually at the factory itself, where every frame set is scanned by a CT scanner. And then there's also a batch testing process that's carried out by a third-party company. Now, another point to mention, it's also told that part of the selection process for the factory was the conditions for the workers there. And I think that's cool. It's often overlooked in the bike industry, but it really shouldn't be. Now, next question about this bike, should always ask it of a gravel bike, where exactly does it sit on the spectrum? Is it a dirt-loving road bike, or is it a mountain bike with drop bars? And I think when it comes to this one, the answer is it lies somewhere in the middle. You can fit those big fat tyres on to take you towards mountain biking, but the position you can get on the bike and the nimble handling means that it also feels a little bit like a road bike. And when you look at the geometry charts, you'll see that you can get a low position if that's your bag, but equally, it's not so slammed that you're not going to find you can get comfortable on it either. Back to this bike that we've got here then. This, as I mentioned earlier, is a new model in the range with SRAM's red E-TAP Access group set. So it's going to be right at the top. It feels like SRAM E-TAP Access doesn't need much of an introduction, but to summarise, it's got the wireless E-TAP functionality and it's also now 12-speed at the back. When you look at the finishing kit on this bike, again, it suggests to me that it's been spec'd by someone that knows their stuff. So we've got Head Vanquish carbon wheels on here. We've got a Zip bar stem and seat post. We've got Conti tyres, and we've got Physique saddle and bar tape. Now, interestingly, all the bikes are actually built by another well-established cycling industry company in California and then shipped out, leaving you to attach the seat post, your handlebars, pop the front wheel in, as well as needing to put some pedals on. So there we go. That is the Viathon G.1 gravel bike. Make sure you let us know in the comments section what your first impressions are. And also, if you want to see me take one of these for a spin, I got to actually sample some very, very lovely Idaho gravel myself. There was a video on that over on GCN now.